During this winter I bought some firewood out of a local hardware store, general merchant, and it was pretty poor, to be honest. It was cheap, and it was cheap for a reason. It was soaking. Before I get on to just how wet that firewood was, I want to update on the remarks I made in the last video in relation to ash dieback when I was speaking about clones and hybrids. So ash dieback affects, I said that it was mostly newer plantations that it affected, and that's partially correct. Younger ash trees are more susceptible to ash dieback than older ones. Also, one viewer came back and said that their ash trees are all affected, mature ones as well as younger ones. So ash trees are more affected by ash dieback if they're planted and growing in wetter areas. So perhaps those that said their ash trees were fine, they were mature ash trees in drier areas. One interesting fact that I came upon while doing the research was that the ash trees that were planted in Ireland during the 1990s weren't pure common European ash trees. They were complex hybrids and they didn't grow well. So generally I'm not against clones and hybrids. I am, however, very much in favour of biodiversity and seed-grown plants. So just how much moisture content was there in these couple of pieces of firewood that I bought from the shop? I weighed them when I bought them, and I also used one of these testers, and as I'm just about to demonstrate, unless you've got a very expensive tester, these moisture content readers are pretty much, I don't like to say they're not worth the money, but they're not. They're so inaccurate. So anyway, it was 1700 grams, this one, on the 19th of the 1st, and I've been drying them out in the top shelf of the polytunnel, and this one now 1200 grams, so 500 grams of moisture in it. So that equates to half a litre, 500 millilitres. So what does that look like? Okay, so this pint glass weighs 350 millilitres. So minus 3.5. Wow. Okay, a pint, an imperial pint, and more than an imperial pint. Would you consider chucking that on your fire? Say you had half a dozen of these logs and you chucked them on your fire. That's what you're going to have to boil off before you get any heat. Astonishing. That's even a surprise to me. Okay, it's birch, by the way. It's probably from Finland. Ireland should definitely be growing its own firewood. But yeah, birch is nice, good, heavy, solid, hardwood firewood, and it's generally good, but it's not good if it's soaking. So this is probably, that's probably from Finland. I'm not sure if I said that. This is pine or spruce, and it's probably from Germany or Finland as well. And when I weighed it, it was 1550 grams. And it's now 950, so 600 grams it's lost. 950, 600 grams. So more than a pint. Astonishing. Okay, so in terms of that moisture content reader, that was 20.8% and that was 18% when I took some tests on it, so evidently it's lost a third of its weight pretty much for both of these, a bit more than a third of its weight for this one, getting on for half, so that would be about, say, 40%, and it's read 20.8, and that one 18, and it's lost 500 grams, so 18%, it's lost 30% anyway. Do the maths, 1700, 500, 3, a third, just under a third. Okay, so maybe 25%, so slightly more accurate on that, but definitely showing on the low side. So here in Ireland, it's pretty common to see people with open sheds and they're burning their firewood during the winter when it's cold and damp. So a neighbour gave me this piece of wood which was in their open shed, and it's fabulous. I don't know what it is, but it's very heavy, very dense, very slow growing. You can see the growth rings there. It must be 20, 30 years old. Anyways, when I weighed it, it was 1800 grams, and it's now 1500. So 1500 equates to about 600 millilitres, so still a pint that it's lost. Just astonishing. I just find that incredible. It's a shock to me. It's so much of a shock to me, in fact. I do use that scale downstairs for weighing my parcels, and the post office weigh them when I send them, so I'm pretty sure it's accurate. Anyway, this scale only goes up to 1 kilo, but it's in it's in more or less a gram increments. So okay, 923, so downstairs it was reading 900 to 500, so that's pretty accurate. They're both accurate. Okay, so let's just see. Yeah, 350 grams it was reading for the weight of a pint glass downstairs. 339 here, so 340, so not much to say there. So let's tear off that. Okay, so let's see what 600 grams looks like. Okay, well, there's not 600 grams left in it, but that's 476 grams, and I'll guarantee you this scale is very accurate. It's accurate with the postal scales in the local post office, in 2 of them that I go to. So that's 476 millilitres or grams, and this log lost 650 grams weight, so equivalent of 650 millilitres, so more than a pint, more than what's in that glass. So that's just, like I say, that's even shocked me. So can you imagine having to putting 6 of these logs on your fire and having to boil that off? Just incredible. While I'm here, this was a piece of eucalyptus that I dried out in the polytunnel last year. It took about 9 weeks to lose most of its moisture content. At the end of that, weighed 502 grams. So I've left it in the shed here in the outhouse, and also it's been drying again in the polytunnel top shelf. So 502, it now weighs 466, so it's lost another 466, 34, 36, 35 grams. So it's pretty much dry. And this one was the same, and this one was interesting because I dried it out more slowly, or it was dried out more slowly. So 532, and now it's lost another 474, so 26, 56, 58, 57, 58. And what's interesting about this in terms of the Irish timber industry is lots of reports I read when I was doing the first research said that eucalyptus splits so easily. Okay, this was dried more slowly and it hasn't split. It's fine. This one was dried really quickly, 40 degrees C, and as you can see, it's split considerably. So when will you get your firewood? If you're buying it from the shop, even though it's reasonable quality, and I've bought firewood in the past and you can get it kiln dried, which is very dry, but you're talking like €14 for a bag of firewood. And really, for stuff that's reasonable, around the €7 mark, €8 mark, that I bought there that had a very high moisture content was around €4 a bag for the hardwood. I think maybe £4.50 for the hardwood, £3.50 for the softwood. This is eucalyptus, the windfall, wind-blown dead trees of eucalyptus that I'm stacking up. So if you're buying it from the shops and you're buying it for a reasonable price, or if you're buying it in a big trailer, then end of winter, buy it at the end of winter. Certainly this is middle of summer, and buy it as soon as possible. And if you've got access to a polytunnel, then stick it in the polytunnel to dry it out before winter. No polytunnel if you've got a shed or next to your stove or next to your fire, but really the drier it is, the better it will burn. If you're not buying it in bulk from somebody else and you want to grow your own, then these Eucalyptus nitens I planted just over 4 years ago, and if I was starting to thin these out, really, if I wanted the best of them to grow on and be stronger trees, then I'd be starting to thin them out. And I would suggest that if you planted up even half an acre of these, after 5 years you're going to be self-sustaining in firewood fuel, and eucalyptus is just fabulous. It's better than anything else I've burnt, be that ash, oak, birch, pine, spruce. It is just fantastic firewood. So you're going to get your firewood in around, depending on how you plant it up, you're going to get your firewood in around 4 or 5 years. I'm starting to have some good stock now. These are Viminalis, good firewood, very fast growing. I'd caveat it and say really not suitable for areas. If you want to grow firewood, then some shelter is required for Viminalis, but very fast growing, very tough and resilient. Frosts and winds, they'll always come back, but if you're wanting large straight trees, then I would suggest somewhere sheltered would suit Viminalis. These are Camphora, a swamp gum, so these would be fabulous for planting in wetter areas. Fast growing, good firewood, no issues so far, very slight wind burn on those I've planted here, so a good choice. These are Rodwai, grown commercially for firewood. Those that are here that I've planted are just so astonishingly tough and resilient, it's just remarkable. So I'll definitely be planting more Rodwai. Lots of Rodwai coming on here, and at this time of year these won't be long in maturing and becoming plantable, saleable. So, and Rodwai, as I say, are one that's grown commercially for firewood, so a very good choice. One of the swamp gums, so another reason that they're great here in Ireland. These are Regnans, not quite ready yet, but I am definitely going to plant more Regnans here. Astonishingly fast growing, 3.5 meters per year, and yes, they didn't enjoy -7 for 2 weeks and freezing fog, but one of them survived, so I'm going to bet that we're not going to get those sort of extreme conditions every winter, and I'm going to plant more. Fabulous stock of Paulownia, and you know, whether it's clones or seed grown, I'm becoming a very big fan of Paulownia, and my reason for that is their astonishingly wide temperature tolerance range, from minus 10, 15, minus 15 to right up to 40 degrees C. So with changing climatic conditions, these will certainly be adaptable. Ernigera, really good stock of Ernigera now. Very tough, very hardy and resilient, good firewood, happy at the coast, happy inland. Really tough and hardy, not perhaps the fastest of growing, but they, you know, 1.5 meters a year. So you're going to get firewood pretty quickly. I do have a few globulus. I'm going to plant a lot of them here. As I say, it's a bet on what sort of conditions we're going to get, temperature range, because globulus didn't like the -7, but I'd say they'd be, yeah, they were definitely fine -4. It was more the prolonged 2 weeks of it we had here and the freezing fog that was an issue for them. They would be fabulous for the coast. Likewise, ovata. They weren't great in the -7 here, but they would be fabulous at the coast, and they have them on the coast in California and America, one in a zoo there growing fabulously. So they have cold, salty winds there, so I'd say ovata would be a fabulous choice for coastal areas. 4 years old, best of them getting on for 10 meters. Hope that helps. Good luck.